What's going on, Eagles Nation? It's your boy Showtime 804 coming back at you, back at it like we never left. Before we get started, as always, hit that sub button, hit the bell notification. That way, you know when I drop new content, you be the first one to hear. Like, comment, tell your friends, tell a friend, so we can build this thing on up. Want to talk about some things that really got me bothered over the last couple of weeks. If you're looking at the thumbnail, you can see the topic is the worst analysts on TV. And for those of you who can't recognize those photos, you got Ryan Clark, Marcus Spears, Max Kellerman, and Dominic Foxworth. Three of those four given pretty much some bad takes throughout the last couple of weeks. One has given a bad take for the last couple of years because he's certified doesn't like our team, and he goes on air and makes that comment, and that would be Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman is very annoying when it comes to talking about football because he's a boxing analyst, so he really has no expertise as far as football is concerned. So sometimes, he bothers me a little bit to a certain extent when he talks about our team because he really doesn't know what he's talking about. And because he works on ESPN, he has to talk about what's popular at the time. And that goes for a lot of those commentators on that network. They don't put a lot of thought into their takes. They're pretty much given instruction from their producers, and they take those topics and run with them. So for the last few weeks, they kind of piled on our team in regards with Carson Wentz. And with three of those guys being former players, they should know what it takes. And matter of fact, as a man, to put another man down and to continuously kick someone when they're down, it just don't sit well with some people. It don't sit well with me at all, and I can't rock with stuff like that. Like I said, over the last couple of weeks, they just piled it on Carson Wentz and piled it on, only to get to this point where these guys are backtracking and backpedaling like a DB on a fly route. Mainly Ryan Clark. He pretty much like kind of threw Carson under the bus, and parked it there, saying that, he was just a bad player, bad quarterback, all around. You just don't fall off that bad within a year's time. Only to have this game that took place on Sunday where they got to see that the flaws of Doug Peterson and how certain players were able to mask those flaws. Carson Wentz pretty much went 2 years with the flaws of Doug Peterson. And like I said in the previous video, Doug even admitted, as to why backups have greater success in his system. And he stated that it's because he puts more on the starter. He puts more on Carson Wentz. Like I said, that's a red flag all of its own. Now, Jalen Hurts, he was the shiny new toy, but even he couldn't, escape the flaws of Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson, I get people like him as a head coach. And, people aren't so quick to write him off after one bad year. But in the same breath, those same four guys, with the exception of Max Kellerman, who's pretty much been, against Carson since he came into the league, three of those four guys are ready to dump on Carson Wentz after a bad season, but you're not giving the coach the same benefit of the doubt. And the thing with Doug Peterson that I don't like is Doug made himself his own offensive coordinator with no experience being a high-profile offensive coordinator. He wasn't like, a Sean Payton or a Kyle Shanahan or Scott McVay, where those guys were elite play callers in their own generation or own time period, and then transitioned to be this head coach who can call their own plays. Doug Peterson wasn't that. Doug Peterson pretty much rode on the coattails of Andy Reid, where Andy Reid gave him the experiment time to call plays, whether it's in a 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, right before a half, or some brief portion of time within a game, only to see him, show his flaws and his inabilities to actually manage an offense. Because we've seen this offense stall out ever since Frank Reich left. And Mike Groh was the first scapegoat. And we got rid of Mike Groh. Well, Howie and Jeff Lurie demanded that we got rid of Mike Groh. And the same thing needs to happen with Doug. Some people like him as a coach. I can't get to that. And I don't want to have him hold on to the Super Bowl as a get out of jail free card, pretty much like what Mike McCarthy did in Green Bay, only to win that one Super Bowl and then you just destroy the team for the following 8 years after that. I don't want to get down that road with Doug Peterson. But those guys, especially Ryan Clark, to come out and say that, Doug is a bad coach or a bad play caller, and not to, apologize or even, walk back his comments as far as what he said about Carson Wentz. Because that 2017 season happened with Carson. He did get rushed back, and the 2018 season, although the wins weren't there, the stats were still, pretty high. 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, close to 70% completion. But also in context with that year, we didn't have a running game. We pretty much faltered. We let go of LeGarrette Blount. Jay Ajayi was hurt, and we relied on, Josh Adams, a practice squad guy, to fill up a big carry, a big bulk of the rushing attack that was, fourth in the league the year before, which led us to the Super Bowl. We didn't have those same pieces, and more got put on Carson Wentz's plate, even with a broken bone in his back and coming off a torn ACL. So, you got to take those things into consideration. You can't just write the guy off and say he's bad. Fast forward from 2018 to 2019 to not have a wide receiver go over 500 yards, that alone as well. That's a lot of responsibility. And Carson Wentz made up for the shortcomings of not having playmakers on offense. Everything was confined within a box. It was pretty much a 15 to 20 yard window. That's where everything was confined in. So that's where your tight end saw. And we really relied on that West Coast offense, short passes, getting the ball out quick. And without a deep threat, he wasn't forced or asked to throw the ball down the field. Fast forward to this year, we get a lot of speed on offense, so a lot of plays in that playbook were for a lot of routes to develop downfield. And throwing the ball downfield means you're going to take more chances. If you look at how Alex Smith plays, when Alex Smith first came into the league, they saw how he played in that Utah system where he could, throw the ball over the field. And he didn't get the same translation into the NFL because he wasn't used to the talent, for one, and the 49ers at the time didn't have a lot of open field threats. So he was very careless with the football because they required him to kind of throw the ball around the field. So you look at him now, he kind of removed himself away from that, keeping everything in that tight box. That's how you see the high numbers with the low turnover rate. And looking at Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, they both have to play hero ball in Doug Peterson's system. That's just what it is. And Carson was able to overcome that last year. He wasn't able to overcome it this year with bad offensive line play. Jalen Hurts was able to overcome it because, for one, they limited his reads, and two, he's able to get out of some of that pressure. And like I said, with those analysts, they're just horrible. And Marcus Spears even tried to double down to make himself seem more correct because he is a longtime Cowboy. So, of course, Jerry probably, hit him in the pocket, give him a little $2,000, $5,000 bump just to start speaking negative because it puts more light on the Cowboys. But like I said, for some of those players, they know things go into context. They should know these things. And it's only that Diane Orlovsky is the only one on that show with any common sense to know certain things come into play that you just can't overcome as a football player. Football, they say football is the ultimate team game. So you have, 10 guys relying on one. Whereas, we weren't one or two plays away from winning the games. A lot of times we were in a hole trying to crawl out of that hole. So if we were losing some of these games by one or two, one score, one possession game, and then you see a ill-advised throw or something like that take place, then yeah, you could put that on Carson Wentz. But not when you have a head coach who's inadequate as far as situational football. Doug's situational football is horrible, and anyone who watches the game knows this. And like I said, these guys are analysts, so they're watching the game. They know what to look for, but they're taking the easy topic which is, oh, Carson Wentz is playing so bad. The whole world knew he was playing bad. They took turns day in and day out, compounding and piling on, only to keep doubling down on the same topic. Like, why are you talking about the backup quarterback? That's the only backup quarterback in the league that's getting this kind of attention right now. There's plenty of time towards the offseason to have the Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts debate, but not during the middle of the season. Once he got benched, that was it. We should have heard nothing else about Carson Wentz. Maybe a day or two, but to carry this thing on for 3 weeks, nah, you got to miss me with that one. But like I said, those guys, they're just horrible when it comes to those takes. You know, you expect Skip Bayless to make those kind of comments, or the Will Canes of the world, you know, the true Dallas Cowboy fans to carry on that type of topic for week in and week out. And it was so easy to blame Carson Wentz, but no one blamed Doug Peterson. Only the true casual Eagle fan blames Doug Peterson. And we can trade Carson. It's not going to be easy, but we shouldn't put ourselves, you know, because a lot of NFL executives are saying that this is going to be a grave mistake to move on from Carson Wentz after a bad year, especially if you're not going to move on from Doug Peterson, because they're handcuffed together. They came in the league together. They saw successes together, and people are being blinded by this mini success of Jalen Hurts. We're still 1-2. Now, that one game came against Drew Brees. You know, everybody says that's the #1 defense. Sure, but when you're playing a non-traditional quarterback, if Jalen Hurts could have kept pace offensively with Drew Brees, then that's a different story. That win means a whole lot more. But he couldn't keep pace with some of the higher power offenses, the Arizona. He couldn't keep pace with Green Bay, and I get that he only played a half. Even Dallas, he couldn't keep pace because everyone falters the defense for letting go, but we got a chance with the ball as well, and we only put up 3 points after going up 14-3. So that did happen, and that goes back to the Doug Peterson. His clock management and situational awareness is horrible. So, you know, be careful before you jump on a hot take and a bandwagon as far as, you know, the easy way out. Because if somebody else says it, have your own thought when you're talking about your team. You know, you sit there and watch a game for 60 minutes. You know what your eyes are telling you. Don't go off of what someone else tells you to think. Nah, we don't do that. We Eagles fans. We support our own. We don't go against the grain. That's crazy. But you know, now we look into week 17. We're already out the playoffs. Do not try to win this game. I'm sorry. You're at the tanking point now. Don't cost yourself out of the top 5 for a draft pick. If you have a chance to get an elite wide receiver, you go do that. You don't fall to number 10, then you start settling. We've seen that time and time again where we end up settling for draft picks. That's how we end up with J.J. Arcega-Whitesides. We don't need to do that anymore. But go ahead and get out of here. Fly, Eagles, fly.